In 1974, high wire artist Philippe Petit took his 131-foot walk between the Twin Towers. This is how he did it. Probably the first thing to understand about Philippe Petit is that the vision that he had to do this existed for 6 years before he actually made the attempt. The actual walk itself was illegal. He had to do this without any of the authorities knowing what he was planning. That meant taking tons of equipment to the 2 roofs of the Twin Towers without anybody detecting that him and his team were actually in the building. He did it by disguising himself from everything from a construction worker to an architect to a journalist. And he had to get all of the equipment up there and rigged under the cover of night. Now, one of the main obstacles to be able to do this is how to get a several thousand-pound cable from the top of one building to the top of the other. From the North Tower to the South Tower, an arrow was shot, attached to a fishing line, which was then attached to a lighter rope, then a heavier rope, and then eventually the cable. And that was then strung across the top of the 2 buildings in order to set up the line for this amazing walk. Shortly after 6 a.m., Philippe took that fateful step. In a period of 45 minutes, he crossed that wire 8 times while the crowds below cheered him on and looked up in awe. And the police on both towers were trying to get him down and even threatened at one point to pluck him off with a helicopter. He became so confident in his skill and what he was doing, he danced on the cable, he lay down on the cable, he knelt on the cable, and he bowed to the audience below. So like many people, you might be asking, why would he do this? In fact, when the whole walk was over and he was handcuffed to a police chair, all the reporters in the city of New York were coming up to him and asking him, why did he do this? He said there was no why, it was just there. Now, this brings to a very interesting point. While he was on the wire and he was getting close to the end of the walk, he didn't actually realize he hadn't planned a time to finish the walk. But he laid down on the cable. He was laying down on his back, just as relaxed if he was laying down on a bed. The seagull came and flew right over his face. And as he looked at the seagull, he noticed that the seagull's eye was red. And he felt that it was as if the gods were communicating to him that his time on the cable was up and he needed to get off. He saw this as like an omen warning him, time to get off the cable. He thought, I think I've worn out my welcome here. And he got up and walked to the edge of the roof. And as he put the foot from the cable to the roof, it began to rain. For up to 40 years after he made these famous walks across the towers, people have been asking why and what is the lesson to be taken away from this. Philippe insists it's an art, it's an inner calling. It wasn't about being a daredevil, it wasn't about taking risks. He actually felt that there was no risk at all while he was up on the wire. He's lived his life as an artistry, as a poet, not something to be marketed or not something to be characterized in some way to give him fame and fortune. He's actually refused his whole lifetime to brand anything based on the idea of what he walks. His walks are for his own satisfaction and to inspire others. What do we think we should take away from this? The idea that we can all do the same. Every one of us has our wire in life to walk, but it's our decision to do so.